Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for you today, all in the health and wellness space. He's Brian Gryn. He's all about eating clean and getting lean. And we're going to hear all about that. I'm really happy to have him and really happy to have his advice and experience for the guest. Brian, welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. Briefly introduce yourself and what you do. And I'm really excited to dive into the conversation.
Yeah, so I am a health coach and trainer. I also have a podcast, the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. So don't have quite as many episodes as you, but we're getting there. And yeah, I've been in health and wellness for 20 years now. Used to have a studio, train out of a studio, and then COVID hit, and now everything's been gone more virtually. But yeah, so I've been helping people in the studio and outside, mainly helping them get their nutrition squared away as well. And I work typically with middle-aged males, so like entrepreneurs, business owners, maybe have put their health on the back burner for the last 15, 20 years, give or take, and they want to either get back in shape or maybe they've never even touched a weight in their lives, but just want to get their health on track and start prioritizing their health over other things that maybe they've done in the past. Yeah, it's been a good niche, and I work with individuals typically on a 6-month time scale, and we work all through not just resistance training, but also nutrition and stress and sleep because they're all linked together. Yeah, so it's a bit about what
Interesting.
I've been doing.
Yeah, that's great. And moving the conversation forward, what's interesting is I see a lot of entrepreneurs, there's some that neglect their health and fitness and sleep and all that, but a large segment of them are starting to really prioritize this because it makes them better at what they do. So one thing is you talk about the importance of muscle and what is so important about muscle in your paradigm or your regime.
Yeah, great question. Typically, the importance of holding on to strength and building muscle as we age is really should be at the forefront of most individuals' mind because there's something called sarcopenia, which can happen fairly quickly, especially as we age, the loss of muscle mass and also bone health as well. I like to tell people that they're going to do one thing. They're going to do one thing. I should say go for walks, but secondly, start lifting and lifting heavier loads if you can. It doesn't have to be crazy. I know as I've gotten older, I've toned it down a little bit. I'm not 25 anymore, but the importance of building muscle, obviously, for just longevity and just making sure that we can do daily tasks throughout the day. As simple things as just as we get older, going up and down stairs and getting up and down and playing with if we have kids or grandkids and things like that. So making sure that we hit the major muscles, but most importantly, lower body, I think is at the forefront. Your glutes and legs are probably the most important muscle part you should target.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, one thing that I've noticed as I age is I really try to stay flexible because it's really flexibility and just being able to your posture and
Mm.
just all the tightness in your shoulders and neck and your lower back and your glutes as well and your hips. The other question I have for you is just you talk about diet and nutrition. So, I mean, is there any particular aspect of your regime that is different? Obviously, vegetables and lean protein and less sugars, less alcohol, all of that. But what is it that sets you apart in terms of your nutrition regime?
Yeah. I would say that there's a lot of different sort of like dogmas out there as far as what to eat. I think it's important that whatever that individual is doing, they can do it and sustain it for the long term because you will see a lot of these sort of diet fads that come in and people will do them for a few months and then they'll move on or even a few years. So I think on the extremes of anything, you have to just be careful and say to yourself, can I sustain this for a long period of time? And so obviously there's a lot of ways to go about it, but I think one thing that I just try to keep in mind when it comes to eating is just trying to focus on less ingredients. So single ingredient foods are great, right? And stay away from sort of those boxes and barcodes. I think those are good rules of thumb. And because I think nowadays everyone's in a rush and in a hurry, and they want to grab for the easiest and the quickest thing possible. And a lot of times that's just highly processed foods. And so if we can just be intentional and make sure that we plan out what we're eating, I think that will go a long way into helping reach your health goals.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting because I did a experiment where 2 months I did just juicing and
Mhm.
just like yoga, and it was like really the health benefits were incredible, but it took a lot of like discipline, and yeah, there was like you took a lot of time. You had the blender and all these like the juices, and so it does which was really interesting.
Yeah.
What are I know you have
No,
something to
I
add.
was just gonna say, like, juicing and things like that. I think, like you said, like, you did it for a short period of time, and maybe something you wanna do, maybe not for months, but maybe you do it for a little bit, like a 3 to 5 day period or even a week just to jumpstart you. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's not really sustainable for the long term. But I know people that tend to do that maybe once a year or twice a year just to kickstart them, right?
Yeah, it's quite interesting to tell you how you mentioned sustainability and just, because like I said, it's almost like when you do it, you're almost like feel like you're depriving yourself and you're like entering into monkhood or some. The other question I have for you is because I hear there's intermittent fasting, and then I recently heard of the carnivore diet, and like just juicing diet and all these things. What are your thoughts on those types of dieting methods?
Yeah, so in regards to in regards to carnivore, yeah, it's become a popular trend. You're seeing it back off a little bit, and I think that just eating meat can be a benefit for some people, especially if they're coming off like the standard American diet. And also too, I think a lot of people get relief from going carnivore because they're avoiding a lot of the gut stressors that
Uh,
could come from eating like sometimes people have issues just eating like raw vegetables or
yeah.
beans, legumes, things like this that could cause gut irritation, right? And make it cause bloating and gas and things like that. So I think the carnivore movement can be a big movement for individuals who, especially who have maybe they're dealing with gut issues. And so I think it's a tool. Do I think it's something that someone needs to do for the rest of their lives? I don't really think so. I think you can start introducing new foods and adding some variety in there as well. But maybe as a short-term tool, yes. And same thing with fasting, I would say. I was actually fairly gung-ho in fasting probably about not 8, 10 years ago. And from time to time, I'll take periods of time without eating. I think that's important, right? And that can help to give you gut relief as well. Because if you're not putting anything in your body, it allows your body to heal a bit. But I think that if you're always in this sort of restriction mode, then it's not, I think for long term, I don't think it's the positive roles are there as far as if someone's over fasting and just restricting too much, then the body can shut down sort of other mechanisms. It'll put you in this low battery mode. And yeah, we don't really want that. I think both carnivore and fasting can be tools, but not something necessarily that should be overdone.
I've seen this. What's interesting is I saw this on social media. These influencers, they're like 30-day watermelon diet, 30-day sardine diet. What was it like? One guy was like 7 day fasting, and just it garners a lot of attention. I'm not sure how healthy it is.
You said it right. It garners a lot of attention, right? And
Yeah.
nowadays it's all about there's so much, and everyone's on social media, right? So like any way to get eyeballs.
Yeah. What is your 6 pillar assessment for health, and how can it be used to create a balanced and sustainable wellness?
Yeah, my 6 pillars are based off the program that I work with individuals on, and
Uh,
so I take them through sort of the 6-step process. One is we create clarity around having a baseline of where they're at. This could be like a DEXA scan or and then also understanding like why they want to improve their health. I think it's important to create clarity around that. So this full baseline assessment to understand where they're at so we can get them where they want to go. And then secondly, we just start and identify like the major culprits and those low hanging fruits that can make the biggest impact on their health right off the bat. Because I think it's important if you're starting any program that you want to get results and build momentum. And so that's number two. Number three is just, I call it like an activity upgrade or a modification, depending on what, if they're already an active person, maybe making small tweaks and trying to make it so they stay consistent. That's probably a big issue that I find with a lot of individuals where the consistency is not there. And so we try to build a workout routine around that. And then sleep, obviously, we know the importance of sleep. And so we just build a simple, manageable routine around slowing the body down and getting it ready for sleep and creating a routine around that. And then stress management, big one, right? Stress. Individuals now have to, I think, have different practices to down regulate and de stress the system because we live in such a hectic world with lights on 24/7 and all the blue lights and the cell phones and stuff. So I think that's a really important aspect of my program. And then lastly, it's just like nutrition, which we talked a little bit about, and meal timing and things like that.
Yeah. What are micro workouts and how can they be effectively incorporated into a busy lifestyle to achieve fitness goals?
Yeah, micro workouts I've become more of a fan of, especially as we get older and we have maybe more responsibilities. These are simple, effective workouts that can be done in 20 minutes. And I think that sometimes people are intimidated and they end up not wanting to go to the gym because they think it's going to take over an hour by the time they get their workout, come back. And I think from time to time, that's maybe a good way to just get out of the house. But I think also, too, if you can have these 20-minute workouts and with my clients, he's been on my podcast a few times. It's called the X3 system, where they can do it at their home. And it's simplistic way of just doing resistance training without having all the fancy gym equipment and just a nice time efficient way to just get it done.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
started to incorporate a lot of just like gym equipment in my home so that I just eliminate like the need to drive somewhere. That way you can just put on your shoes or whatever and just do what you were describing, like 10, 20 minutes, even like a full thing, like midday, just, in exercise and replacement of food or lunch is interesting. You also talk about people working out in a fasted state. What are the benefits and drawbacks of fasting for exercise?
I think so. I think one of the benefits is the fact that sometimes people work out in the morning right away and they don't want to have the time to eat something, digest, work out, right? Like they just want to get it done. So from that standpoint, if that's your most and effective, most and timely efficient way of getting a workout done first thing in the morning, go for it. Do I think you need to have something before and immediately after? No. What's called like your anabolic window of building muscle is a lot longer than what we originally thought. I think people thought they had to work out and then slam a protein shake, and that's not necessarily true. If someone is like goal is to grow, I think that having something before the workout is would be of benefit, could only help. But if they're not that concerned, and I don't think you're going to fall off much if you work out in a fasted state, and then maybe a few hours later you have your meal. So I think the biggest benefit of working out fasted is one, just having nothing in the system, and two is if you're in a sort of a time crunch and you're doing it first thing in the morning, you can maybe have a little pre-workout or something and then just get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, fasting just for short periods of time, makes you a little bit more energized and also like mental clarity, you feel a little bit sharper and more focused. For prolonged periods, you start to get tired and lethargic and irritable. So interesting. And then a lot of the audience, they're high functioning executives, professionals, entrepreneurs, and all about routines. What are some key components of a morning, evening routine that can set someone up for success, especially evening? That's interesting. I've always starting to pay more attention to what I do in the evening to unwind and wind down.
Yeah. So, yeah, evening routine is, I think, crucial, obviously, to getting quality sleep. And so I like to say a couple things. One is perhaps having your last meal, give yourself about at least 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, allowing your body to digest the food. I'm a big fan of going for walks after meals. So if you
Wow.
can couple that with having your last meal, going for a walk, I think that'll go a long way as opposed to just eating and then laying down an hour later. So that's a big part of the routine. Two is trying to just wind down in a sense, and that could be reading a book. That could be making sure that we're not staring at screens. If I do have to go on a screen, I don't have them with me out, but I have like those blue light blocking glasses where I look like Elvis or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, so throwing those on, I typically put those on after 8 o'clock if I do have to look at a screen. And I know some people like to wind down with a little bit of TV so they can put on those glasses and watch a little bit. But I think the biggest thing about a night routine is just finding a way to just get away from what you've been doing throughout the day and spend time with family and read a book. And I think you'll find that like the quality of your sleep will get that much better.
Yeah. That's quite interesting. In the towards the end of the day when my mental acuity is not as good, I, pay attention to like lower tab, like watching TV or, watching a video or these types of things. Really interesting. So how can people, especially those in their 40s and beyond, they're interested in, leveling up their game and their health? How can they find you, check out your work, follow you, reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you. So the best way is through my website is briangryn.com. And then you'll find everything there. If typically I'll set up like at least a 15-minute conversation with someone that wants to learn more about my program, but also I like to learn more about them. Free call there. And if they really want to dive deep into it I have that step ladder system book, and the book was designed around my program. So if they want to check out the book and read it first before they maybe think about working one-on-one, then I always tell people that's a good place to start. And that's all on my website. So easy way to find it. And social media is on there as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I really enjoyed this conversation, just really focusing on those areas that will keep you sharper and in the game. And for the audience, give Brian socials a like and follow, check out his work and reach out to him. And thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.